Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We are with our level 30 character, Mister Eclipse, and we're a good chunk of the way, actually most of the way through level 30, so you might see me level up this episode. Hopefully not, but we are doing the Rise of the Vampiri, and I recorded an episode I wasn't really happy with, and that one didn't start until I was about 6/10 of the way through the level because I got stuck on a story arc for... where is she? Christine Lansdale, wherever she is here. I guess she's expired now. Oh, no, there she is. Which was Ugelman. And it happened. I got into it right. I didn't realize. I didn't think about it, and I got into it right as I was about to level up. So yeah, I spent a whole bunch of this level doing level 29 story arc because once you're on a story arc, you can't stop it. I'm also on a story arc, unfortunately, because I dared talk to him for Montague Castanella, even though I didn't accept any story arcs. And I really would like to punch whatever developer decided that just talking to somebody who has a story arc can get you on a story arc that you can't get off of. Because now this thing it's the lost and found. It's going to be way under level to us and a waste of my time. So it's basically going to sit there until I'm level 50, since you can have more than one story arc at a time. So in any case, we are currently working for Marisol Valenzuela, and we're going to be investigating the Vampiri. We're at level +1 on our notoriety because it's been a little easy, so I moved it up in level, which is another reason why we're gaining levels fairly quickly. Our level 30 power was the Umbra Beast, which I just recently put a damage enhancer on. I eventually want to put accuracy on it, but I didn't happen to have any on me at the time, and my salvage was full. The other thing I do want to mention, gosh, let's go to the base because I want to show you guys. And I actually showed this in the last episode, or the one I just recorded, but you're not going to probably see it. So Kiovar, my friend, I call him out. He was great. Kiovar is a longtime follower of this channel and made lots and lots of comments, some of which for some reason don't appear, but commented on many, many videos back in the day and some recently. And in September, in between the last time I shot a video, I guess, and now, Kiovar sent me a whole bunch of the really the big inspirations, the high-end ones, the ones that are like this one, that are better than the base ones. So I'm just going to show that because big shout out, big thanks to Kiovar, and if you get a chance in the comments, give him a thank you because that's pretty cool. We have about 67 of these bigger than normal enhancements, and like dramatic improvement, resurgence, and emerge, etc. Probably, I don't know how many, 45 of them were given by Kiovar. So thanks, buddy. That was awesome, and we very much appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. And I put them in there so that we have them in a crisis, right? When I'm facing something I can't beat with normal inspirations, then we'll come back to the base and pick those up. Now, I suspect that part of the reason Kiovar mailed them to me is because I could have left them in my mail, and then I could have just pulled them out of the mail if I like face planted in the middle of a mission or something, without having to go back to the base. But so far, I really haven't needed that kind of stuff with this character. Although in the episode I recorded, but probably won't be showing you, I did faceplant once because I wasn't paying attention, and I got attacked by a purple boss while I was still trying to summon my pets, and he two-shotted me because he was like a +2 purple boss. So yeah, it can happen, especially when you're doing +1 missions. But we should be okay. And so far, I really haven't needed anything more than the base inspirations in this tray to do most of my content, even at +1. So today we're going to talk about two things. We're going to talk briefly about YouTube, and the reason that I'm re-recording the video I made is because I felt like I spent too much time on it. And then we'll talk a little bit about D&D and role-playing games and that sort of thing. But I do want to talk about YouTube and just make a little bit of a discussion about that. And so what's been happening recently on YouTube is a number of the channels that I watch and really enjoy, all of which, as far as I can see, have been well within the terms of use for YouTube and are perfectly family friendly and absolutely fine. A number of them over the last couple months have been having a lot of trouble. Their channels are not making any money on their monetization. YouTube's just getting all of it. I mean, under normal circumstances, YouTube takes an obscene chunk of the advertising revenue, but apparently for some of them lately, they're just not getting anything. For some reason, a bunch of their videos that they're posting are just not getting views. It seems like the algorithm is just not showing the videos to people unless they're subscribed. Sometimes the notification isn't popping. Nobody really seems to know what's going on, but this has happened to several of the content creators that I really like. And it seems like YouTube is, a couple of them have complained they feel like they've been inexplicably and unfairly targeted for some kind of almost like shadow ban, and they don't know why. And YouTube is, of course, always and perfectly and completely unresponsive. They just ignore you and don't ever answer. Their AI chatbots, which are like the only way you can get answers, don't seem to know what's going on or be able to algorithmically generate an explanation. And so, these are content creators whose stuff I like and who, as creators, I like. And so when I see YouTube kind of screwing people over, which is what they're doing, I don't really like it. And I don't really have any way to do anything about it. But what I can do is say that I'm not going to support a platform that is doing this to perfectly nice people who are making content that I otherwise enjoy. So I'm not going to make any actions yet, right? We'll see if this continues or if it just was an actual fluke, which is what apparently when they do finally get a human, one or two of these channels have claimed is the claim by YouTube. It's just a glitch. It's just an algorithm problem or whatever. I find that hard to believe, given that it's the same thing has happened to a number of the content creators I watch. By the way, no relationship whatsoever between the content creators. They're totally different subjects. One is like a travelogue type channel, and one is about gaming, and one is about writing, and one is about news, right? Like an alternative news site. So almost entirely uncontroversial, not a lot of political stuff or anything like that. Just news about uh, other stuff that I'm not going to get into. Doesn't really matter. The point is that these folks are, as far as I can tell, entirely innocent, and they're being shadow banned or something. I don't know what's going on, and so I can't, in good conscience, support a platform that's going to do that. Now we'll see what happens, right? Maybe, like I said, maybe it was a fluke. Maybe it was bad luck that it just so happens that several of the channels I'm watching are the ones that got this happening to them, and it's not as systemic as I think it is. I don't really know yet. But if it turns out that this keeps happening and YouTube isn't willing to make it right, I'm probably going to stop using YouTube, and that will mean I will stop posting. As I can't continue to support a platform that's going to screw people over like that. I mean, I know that YouTube is pretty bad anyway, but this is beyond what I have come to expect of Google, and so just as a warning, if this sort of thing continues, I'll just stop making videos. I'm not going to participate in a platform that's going to do this to the other content creators. I'm not going to create content for them, and I'm not going to watch the platform. So we'll see. I've already dramatically cut back how much YouTube I'm watching. I'm still watching the folks that I'm subscribed to because I want to give them views, but I've taken to either playing Ark or reading or writing or something at the times of day when I would ordinarily be like, I'll just watch some YouTube and then go to bed, that kind of thing. I've in the last few days stopped doing that. So in any case, this playthrough has about 20 episodes left. I suspect I will do that no matter what because I'm a completionist and I don't like leaving things unfinished. But whether I'm going to ever make any other content after this is over, I think is an open question at this point. And it's really going to depend on YouTube's behavior. As one person said, I mean, YouTube has gone to war against ad blockers, so most people are having issues with those now because, well, after all, ad blockers are against their TOS, right, their terms of service. But as the one person said, well, what they're trying to do, the reason they're going to war against ad blockers is because they're trying to make people buy YouTube Premium, subscribe to YouTube, and then the ads will go away, right? And so what they've done is make the channel, make YouTube be almost unwatchable without being on YouTube Premium to try and strong arm you into getting YouTube Premium. My answer to that is if you make your free services unwatchable without subscribing, it's not going to make me subscribe. It's going to make me stop using your free services. I've already done this many, many times with websites that started out free and then decided to start charging to give you the same experience you used to have when it was once free. And there are news sites that I don't go to anymore. There are gaming sites that I don't go to anymore. If Dungeons and Dragons, if D&D Beyond started saying, well, right now you can use the forms for free, you can make up to 6 characters for free. If they were to say you can't make any characters for free anymore, and now you have to pay to read the forums, you have to pay to read the books. Beyond just buying the books, you have to pay a subscription fee to use them in any way other than read them, right? I would just never go there again, right? I'm not going to be strong-armed by having the website I'm using for free degraded to the point where you have to pay to get it back to the way it was when it was free. I am not going to be strong-armed into that. I will just stop using the site. I've stopped using Goodreads for that reason, and I won't read, and I won't use a number of the news sites that I used to use. All the old ones that I used to use, basically I stopped and I switched to other sites that are not requiring me to pay through a paywall. I don't mind if they say there's extra stuff that you can get when you pay us. That's fine. But so the way D&D Beyond, as much as I despise Wizards, right now the way D&D Beyond does it is okay to me, right? Because there is a base set of services that you can get for free, and then if you want improved services, you can pay for it. But they haven't yet degraded the free service to the point that it's virtually unusable in an effort to force you to subscribe. And so I'm not down with that kind of strong arm tactic, and I will not be a part of it. So I've already stopped watching a lot of the YouTube channels that I used to watch because the ads make it unwatchable. And okay, if that's what they want. That's what's going to happen, right? I'll just stop using it. Now, speaking of ads, the other thing I do want to say is if you guys ever see any ads on my videos, I hope you don't. I don't see them, but that might be because I'm the content creator. If you do, I don't get a dime from it. This is not a monetized channel. We're too small for that. You have to have like more than twice as many subs as I have to even have a chance at monetizing, and even then it's not really a guarantee. So I don't, and I'm not doing this to make money, so this is not a monetized channel. So if you're getting ads, it's all thrown in there by YouTube, and they're getting 100% of the revenue, right? So I'm not making any money off the channel, nor do I have any real interest in doing so. I do this for fun, not as a job, not to make money. So anyway, I don't know, some channels seem to have very little in the way of advertising, and they're not obnoxious to watch. And a couple of the ones that I used to watch have become kind of obnoxious, and I don't know if that's because of YouTube or if that's because they have somehow set up a thing with advertisers. I really don't know. Um, but you know, again, when something becomes unwatchable without paying the sub fee, when it used to be watchable for free, I'm just gonna stop. And that may include no longer using YouTube. So if that happens, I will make some sort of a post here to let folks know so that you aren't left hanging. And again, I probably will finish. I expect to finish this run of this character to get him to level 50, but I don't know that I'll make any other content, and that is one reason why I've sort of slowed down on posting ARC content. First of all, hardly anyone seems to be watching it, so if people don't really want to watch it, then there's really no point. Um, Actually, I've tried posting various different games on this channel in the past, and pretty much the only one that seems to garner any interest of the people on the channel is City of Heroes stuff. So, and that's fine. I understand that. I watched the one guy play Ark, and he's got a whole bunch of other games that he plays, and literally the only one I watch him play is Ark. There's another person I watched him play a bunch of Satisfactory. He played a bunch of other games. The only thing I watched was Satisfactory because that's what I was watching the channel for. So I totally understand that, and I have no problem with it. But in addition to the fact that folks don't seem that interested in the Ark stuff, I haven't been posting because, again, I'm getting to be of the mind that I'm going to start to slowly disentangle myself from YouTube. And it's all basically their attitude toward ads and the way they treat some of the content creators that I like. It reminds me of I had this really obnoxious advisor when I was in grad school. The first advisor I had for my PhD. Fortunately, he moved away, and I didn't have to worry about dealing with him after that. But I had to deal with him in the first year, and he was really awful. And what he would do is he would sit in the lab, and he would badmouth the people who weren't there to the people who were. So he would badmouth the other grad students to me, and probably badmouth me to the other grad students. In fact, I know he did. And the problem was we all kind of disliked him, and we were friends with each other, right? So we all ended up telling each other what he said about us because we liked each other better than we liked him, and he was insulting people we liked, right? He was screwing with people we liked, and we weren't down with that. And YouTube is screwing over people I like, or at least whose channel I like, right, and whose content I like, and I'm not down with that. So, anyway, again, a longer rant than I wanted to give, but I do want to have an explanation in case I decide to pull the plug on this channel at some point. You'll know it was YouTube's fault, almost certainly. Now, with that said, a little bit of D&D news. Now, I'm going to say this right from the outset. I have not purchased, I will not purchase, I have not read, and I have no intention of reading the new edition, 6th edition. There's no other term for it. It is 6th edition Player's Handbook that came out in 2024. I have not read it. What I have read is somebody made a really excellent post in the D&D Beyond forum, and then somebody else responded, and they quoted or paraphrased the 6th edition Player's Handbook rules. So what I am going to be quoting here might be not entirely accurate because I do not have access to, nor do I want access to, the 6th edition 2024 Player's Handbook, and therefore I am only going by what these players or GMs have said that it says in the book, right? I am going to accept that they have made an accurate summary of what it says in the book, okay? And assuming that that's the case, I'm going to respond to a couple of things that I think are absolutely insane in the Player's Handbook, and why I think they're like that, and why I think that this is a big mistake for Wizards of the Coast from a game design perspective. So the first comment came from a game master who was complaining that he felt that the Player's Handbook makes everything too generic because they have decoupled the racial stat bonuses from the species. race, whatever, and put it in the backgrounds. And because they have done certain other things to like sort of equalize all the classes so everything is quote unquote balanced, he said it's taken all of the individuality out of the game and everything is just basically a pile of gray goo, right? All the characters have their max, the best stats they can have, and all their right stats, and it doesn't matter what race you are. So there's no compromise between, well, the elves have this really cool racial ability to do this, but they don't have the bonus to wisdom that I would like. On the other hand, this other race has a bonus to wisdom, but they don't have this cool elven ability to do stealth or whatever. So I'm going to have to pick and choose. Instead, nobody has to pick and choose. You can just take whatever you want, which means the characters to him are boring. But as he was complaining about this, one of the things he griped about that I find just entirely bizarre and completely unacceptable as a game master is that according to him, and I assume it's true because I can't imagine why he would lie, and nobody on the thread as of when I looked at it contradicted him and said that this wasn't true. He claims that it says in the player's handbook that every single player character by default gets a common magic item at level 2. This is absolutely insane because it makes assumptions about the magic level in a campaign that the people who write D&D should not make. They specifically said in the 5th edition rules that there are no assumptions about magic items and the player characters can go all the way to level 20 and they don't need magic items in order to be successful, right? You see how much we're missing here? That's because of the additional level buff, right? They're a level above me, so it makes you miss more. So yeah, I mean, they said in the original Player's Handbook and DM's Guide from 2014 that you don't have to give magic items to player characters, and they'll do fine without them. Are they going back on that? Are they now saying that player characters have to have magic items? And why are they deciding at 2nd level, that is really early, to give magic items to player characters? I think this is a terrible idea. Now, you could say there's a rule 0, right? The GM doesn't have to allow it. But we've talked about this before, about how the D&D writers are putting themselves in the position of being a permissive parent and forcing the GM to be the disciplinarian, right? And the problem with that is that they're making the default be everybody gets a magic item at level 2, and if the GM doesn't want it, then the GM is forced to take it out, right? To ban it or whatever. And that, of course, makes the GM seem like a bad guy because the GM is taking away something that the rules, by default, give to the players. And it's completely inappropriate for the book to make this decision because the writers of the book don't know whether you have a high, mid, or low magic world. And which one of those you have is going to be very important in determining how often and what power level of magic items you give to characters. Now, common magic items aren't super powerful, but if you have a party of 5, you just now added 5 magic items minimum to the campaign at level 2. Probably, given that the default in at least the 5th edition book is to tell you to give to let the players gain 1 level by the end of the first session. By the 2nd session, the GM now has to deal with 5 different magic items of common power in their campaign. 2nd session. I think that's crazy. Why are they doing this? Well, let's continue. Because one of the people who responded was trying to defend the decisions by Wizards of the Coast, saying that the GM does have lots of choice, and pointing out that it says, apparently in the player's handbook, that at 1st level, right, there's the default gear that you get, the starting gear, but that the game master could give you more. It doesn't say more or less. According to this quote, it just says, here's the starting gear, or the GM can give you more. Again, the assumption that you have to have at least this much, the GM shouldn't give you less, but if he wants to, he can give you more, right? Again, this seems to be trying to control what the game master does and trying to provide some sort of a minimum baseline. And the way it's worded and written and the way it will seem to players is that any GM who says you're going to get less than the starting gear is mean, because this says you can give us more. It doesn't say you can give us less. Once again, WotC being the permissive parent and forcing the GM, if he wants you to have, or she wants you to have less starting equipment, to be the bad guy, right? The disciplinarian. So what's at play here, right? Why is Wizards of the Coast doing it this way? And I think it's because they're trying to control things they cannot control. Wizards of the Coast wants to protect you from those big, bad, mean GMs who are doing all this mean stuff that we hear about on the internet, all these nightmare stories, and they're trying to protect you. And this reminds me of Ian Malcolm's quote in the movie Jurassic Park. I don't know if it's a direct quote from the book, but it's a great line. And what he does is he turns to John Hammond, who's just told them how the park is going to work. And he says, John, the kind of control you're trying to achieve here is, it's not possible. The park, Jurassic Park, is a massive complex system, and you cannot control a complex system because of all the interacting variables. Well, a role-playing game, I'm not talking about a single group of players, but a role-playing game with all these players all over the world playing in all these different ways, with all these different house rules, with all these different settings, in all these different adventures, control of that is not possible, and Wizards of the Coast is trying to control it. Right? They're trying to make it so that your GM has to give you the stat bonuses you want, right? By taking them off of races and putting them onto feats and onto backgrounds, and then saying each background gets a feat, so the GM can't say we're not playing with feats. Now you have to play with feats. It's part of the background system, and if you take it out, you're going to have to homebrew the entire thing, right? And the GM can't say you don't get any magic items because it's down in the rules that at second level you get at least a common magic item. Give me a potion of healing or something. Right? Any GM who doesn't is going to be considered mean. And so what they're trying to do is control how the game is played. They're trying to make the GMs play it the way Wizards of the Coast thinks we should play it. And thus, they're trying to control it. And that's, I think, why they're trying to tell you what magic items to put in the game. I mean, they had advice in Tasha's Cauldron, or maybe in Xanathar's Guide, that said, well, this is how many common, uncommon, and rare magic items the characters should get per level, right? Like one common item every 3 levels, one rare item every 4 levels, I don't know. And so that by the time they're 20th level, they should have like 8 common items, 4 rare items, and 4 uncommon items and 2 rare items, and maybe 1 legendary item or whatever in the entire party, something like that, right? But that was to give the GM a standard to calibrate whether they were giving enough treasure or not, based on the expectations of the rule designers. That wasn't the rule designers saying automatically at a certain level these guys get these magic items. And so I think that, again, what's going on here is an attempt to control. They want to control how players experience the game, right? And the one person who was responding to it and quoted the fact that you can give more than the starting gear, right? But it doesn't say you can give less, was either that person or one of the other people who responded sort of responded by saying, yeah, there's lots of crappy GMs out here, and the game system is there to prevent them from ruining your experience. And I thought about that, and I said, well, that's baloney, right? Like, a bad GM doesn't ruin your experience by not giving you magic items. right? The bad GM in our group was in Champions. There are no magic items in Champions, but he still wrecked the game by being a bad GM and making his characters, his own player characters, the star of his story, right? As NPCs. They can't stop you from doing that by telling you that you have to give magic items, right? And like the ways in which game masters, look at that triple miss. The ways in which game masters can ruin the game are so varied and myriad that it's not possible for them to just, using the character design system, make it so the GM can't wreck your fun. Like, character builds are the least significant way in which fun can be ruined for players. Look at all the missing. And they're only 2 levels above me. That's ridiculous. Let's take a look at the hit rolls. 74% chance that I'm rolling 76, 80. Yeah, 75% chance I'm doing triple miss. So there are so many ways that a GM can ruin the fun of a game that have nothing to do with character builds. Character builds are irrelevant. You could play pre-made characters built by the module designers and hand it out to the players by the GM, and he could still wreck the game if he's running it badly. And you could have the same pre-made characters be a lot of fun if the GM runs the game well. So I think what's happening at the core of all of this is that Wizards of the Coast is trying to control the experience. And I've talked about this before. The GM has historically been the weak link because the GM, not the rules, not the adventure, not the campaign, the GM and the other players, the human factor, determine whether you have fun in a D&D game or not. And that's the one thing that Wizards of the Coast really cannot control. And they're attempting to do that in the new game design of 6th edition. And I think it's doomed to fail. Because nothing they put in the rules about character builds or running the game can possibly protect you from an actual bad GM. Right? Bad GMs aren't people who don't know what they're doing or have never GM'd before or anything like that. Bad GMs are people who are selfish and aren't there to help you have fun in the game, but are there for their own purposes. Right? Selfish people. Those guys are the bad GMs. And Wizards of the Coast cannot write any line of any rule book that's going to make people not be selfish. Right? We said this before when Trevor Duvall talked about how GMing is a skill in one of the Quintessence last episodes. And I said, well, there are skills associated with GMing, but being a good GM is based on temperament. You have to have the right temperament, and a rulebook cannot give you the right temperament. So I think, Wizards of the Coast is trying to protect the players from a bad GM, and I don't think they're ever going to be able to do that. But that explains why they've made some of the, from a rules perspective, crazy decisions, in my opinion, about the new edition. I think it's absolutely insane to have a predefined number of magic items that player characters get at certain levels, which is essentially what they're doing with the second level magic item thing, again, if that's true. And I think it's utter insanity to tell the GMs effectively, you can always give them more than the starting equipment, but don't give them less, right? They don't say it in those words, but that's the implication of the GM can give them this or more, right? It's absolutely crazy to do that. It's not going to stop the GMs who want to limit the magic items from limiting it. It's just going to make them look bad and feel bad for doing it, right? And it may make some of the prima donna players decide that they're not going to play with this GM. They're probably better off. The GM's probably better off. Wow. All because I missed. That was all because I missed. And 2 of them hit me. Yikes. Yeah, it's this character If everything hits, he's fine, and if he has a missed chain, which we've had a few times in this episode, man, he's gonna get pounded, and he has no defenses, so his health just drops like a stone. Haven't needed the Ember Beast yet, so you guys haven't seen it. Ah, there's a boss. Okay, we'll use the Ember Beast. Here, go fight the boss, and we'll use our buddies too. Go attack it. I call him Twilight Wolf. Here, you help us too. Everybody attacks the boss. Yeah, so the one player said that he feels like what D&D is doing is going from the story of how your characters go on an adventure to the story of how your character wins. Right? That there's no chance of losing. It's just about it's just a question of how you're going to win. And I think that to some degree really does sum it up. And it's why I don't play Dungeons and Dragons anymore. And I think, again, part of it is they're trying to protect players from the evil, mean GM who might actually cause some characters to die based on the adventure designs and stuff like that. Twilight Wolf is pretty cool. Doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does some damage over time and also has some debuffing howls and stuff. And he looks awesome. Look how cool that is with the glowing eyes and stuff. Hey, buddy. Come with me. We got more guys to take out. Go get him. So that thing is really cool. So when I pull out the Haunts and the Umber Beast, and I throw the Holds out, I can lay down some pretty nice damage and be fairly safe from getting hit in return. It's usually, once in a while, it's a boss that takes me out. But usually what takes me out is minions when I go through a mist chain like I did earlier in that mission. And I'm just like complacently sitting there, almost with my feet up, though not literally, relaxing my way through a mission, hold, mind control, immobilize, hold, blam, 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 hold, mind control, immobilize, hold, blam, 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 hold, mind control, immobilize, hold, blam, blam, blam. And then when I go miss, miss, miss with that, all of a sudden everybody's aggro to me and I'm taking hits from 3 guys. And this guy just doesn't have any defenses to help him against that stuff. All right, so let's call our contact. And I think we will stop there, guys. I hope you have enjoyed your little look at our level 30 content. I'm going to finish this story arc, and when I get on the next one at level 31, I'll bring you back to see us at level 31, and you'll see the slots that we get and that kind of thing. And I hope you've enjoyed the Umber Beast. It's a very cool power, and I'll be using it a lot against bosses. And until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes.